welcome back to the podcast. Sorry it's been a little while since we've done anything. We've been scouting, doing some fishing trips, doing a lot of guiding lately, so it kind of got put on the back burner. So other than that, we've been pretty busy. But anyway, so today we wanted to talk about meat hunting versus trophy hunting. And there are a lot of big debates with that. You know, you get a lot of people that will say, oh, I only hunt for the meat, and you can't eat the Hans. But so today we wanted to kind of give our thought on it, and as always, give a little bit of education with that and whatnot. So where I would like to start with this is say, that was a good one. What do you necessarily consider a trophy? And I'll let you go first on what you think like a trophy deer or a trophy moose would be.
So I mean, you have the standards by which everything is set, right? You have your 50 plus inch bull moose, good trophy, right?
Yeah.
Or deer, 8-10 point, 200 pound, that's another trophy.
Right.
But it's one of those that I think that the trophy is determined by whoever harvested it.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I would agree. When you look at somebody that is talking about, hey, I want a nice trophy buck, a lot of times they're talking about they want that, 8-10 pointer that's at least over 200 pounds, up here. That way they can get their patch buck, and they want to go for exactly that. And you get the meat hunters per se, which a lot of people associate that with, well, if it's brown, it's down. Doesn't matter if it's a skipper, doesn't matter if it's 200 pounds, it's going down.
Yeah.
The first thing they see is going in the freezer. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, that's great if you're getting out and that's all that you have time to do,
Right.
That's good.
Yeah. And that comes into a huge aspect of it is, a lot of the people that I know that are purely meat hunters, their objective is, I've got 4 days of hunting that I can do, and I need to make the best of it. So it doesn't necessarily matter if it is a 10-pointer or an 8-pointer. It's, I like the taste of the meat, and whatever steps out in front of me, I've got such a limited amount of time to hunt, I'm going to harvest it.
Right. So the big question is, do you consider yourself a trophy hunter or a meat hunter?
And this is a hard one, because in a roundabout way, I would almost consider myself a trophy hunter now, because the bigger the animal, the more meat I'm going to get.
Right.
So if I go for a nice 10-pointer or an 8-pointer with a nice rack on it, and it's most likely going to be a bigger animal.
Mm-hmm.
So that is my goal. I would consider myself, in theory, a meat hunter, because I want to hunt for the meat.
Right.
I'm not necessarily looking to, hang 20 mounts on the wall of the biggest bucks that I've ever shot. I'm looking to fill my freezer for that season. But I'm fortunate in the aspect that I don't necessarily need to fill my freezer.
Yep.
Which, therefore, that allows me to sit there and say, I'm gonna hold out and go for a bigger buck.
Right. Fill more of that freezer.
Right. I'm gonna fill more of that freezer, and in turn, technically, I guess that would make me more of the trophy hunter. I'm not necessarily looking for the antlers per se. I'm looking for the size of the deer.
Yeah.
But if the antlers happen to be there, I'm not going to say no.
So here's the thing: is I think everyone even the biggest trophy hunter out there, or someone that says that they're only going to go after, a 200 plus pound buck, you get toward Thanksgiving, which is pretty close to the end of the season. For a lot of guys, it is the last day they can.
Yes.
And that weight drops drastically of what they will and will not take.
Oh, absolutely. That spike horn looks like a 10-point.
Exactly. And
the old colloquial of it's an 11-pointer.
Right.
Yeah, but I think you're spot on with that, and you become less choosy more at the end of the season,
yeah.
And that that goes into, like I was saying earlier, the very limited time that a lot of people have to hunt.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's always different socio-economical reasons for people's choices. They might say, you know what, I don't necessarily care about anything as long as especially where we're starting to get more tags being able to be given out throughout the season now. Like I have my buck and doe tag. It's not just the single any deer permit anymore.
Yeah.
So we have that aspect of it, so people can be less choosy on a doe. They can say, well, whatever steps out in front of me with a doe, I can drop.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Then they have the meat in the freezer,
mm-hmm.
and now they can be very choosy when it comes to their buck.
Right. And I think that the new system for doe tags is awesome. I think it's the best way that they've had it so far.
Yes, I entirely agree.
It helps a lot more people just fill the freezer. So you take people that are hunting out of necessity, it gives them a huge leg up, and it also helps correct the population imbalance that we have going right now.
Yes, and that is, they're definitely trying to manage it very aggressively, trying to get that population back down to where it needs to be. The trouble is we just don't have the hunters anymore, and we can try and get as many hunters from out of state as we can, but that there's a cost to that as well for the individuals coming from out of state. And where we're kind of lacking is our youth hunting, and we don't nearly have as many I'm trying to think of the best way to describe it.
We have a lot more outgoing hunters than we have incoming hunters.
Yes, and I'm going to describe it as like a legacy hunters. And what I mean by that is, like, when we were growing up, your parents hunted, your grandparents hunted, the kids all hunted, and that in itself created a family's worth of hunters. And with that family's worth of hunters, you had larger families at that point in time as well, because you take us, a family of 6.
Yeah.
So we had that, and now, I guess it's a little bit different for every family, but on average, it's 1 or 2 kids.
Right. Yeah. Family sizes had to decrease quite a bit, but I also think that comes with the industrialization of everything. So the family had to reduce in size because groceries cost more, because everything costs more, but they don't hunt, so you don't have that supplement. You know what I mean? It would be if you did procure most of your food from hunting, fishing, gardening, that sort of thing, then you could have a slightly larger family with no cost increase.
Yes, that's a very valid point as well. And there are more people getting into it now that social media is kind of upticked and whatnot, with the the quality of meats and all of that. However, it brings and I want to word this correctly. It brings a vast group of people with a lack of understanding how to hunt into the woods and creates a harder hunt for the people with an understanding how to hunt on public lands.
Yep.
And hopefully, that was worded correctly and it didn't come off as offensive.
No,
but
some people, they do need to be offended in that way a little bit.
Yes.
You need to be pushed to improve. Last year when I was at one of the gas stations locally there, tagging stations, there was a guy that was tagging a deer that I counted 6 bullet wounds in.
Yes. That
You need a little bit of shame in that if it takes you 6 shots to end your deer's life. One of them blew an antler off.
Oh wow.
One of them put a hole in the ear.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's a little rough on that.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I was aiming with that, no pun intended. Like, you get the people that have never picked up a rifle before, never gone out, they don't really target practice to see if they can actually shoot the rifle before they go out. And with technology the way it is right now, you've got endless information at your fingertips. And I understand sometimes it's hard to decipher the information because, somebody can be looking at a YouTube channel based in the Midwest that doesn't provide the same information that
Absolutely.
we're providing because it's completely different hunting territory.
Oh yeah.
And,
It's, as we've said before, what's the farthest yardage you're going to shoot a deer up here?
right.
Maybe 30, 40?
Right, on average. And you do get the offshoots that they're hunting in a field and it's further than that.
Yeah,
But,
it's not very common though.
right.
You might have someone hunting and chopping or something like that.
Yeah.
They do. But the vast majority of deer are harvested around 50 and below yards.
Right. And that's why the 30-30 so tried and true up here is it's a brush gun. We've
Yeah.
got a thick underbrush and you really don't have to go that far of a distance.
Right.
So, but yeah, and that brings it back to, understandably, there are probably a lot more meat hunters now, given the uptick in, your antibiotics and your PFAS, PFOAs, all that being in, livestock now.
Right.
So they
Yeah.
want that.
There's no question the wild game is the best quality meat that you're ever going to have.
Oh, without a doubt, it is the best quality meat. And I get a lot of people that will say, "Well, it's gamey, and it's just not for me."
It's supposed to be gamey.
Right.
When you don't taste the gaminess, and that's not to say that it has to turn your stomach every time you bite into it, because most of it doesn't. It just has a little hint of an aftertaste of game to it. That's what that animal ate that is coming through to you. So
Right.
if it tastes bland or like it's been eating a manufactured diet, that's not a good thing.
Right. And along with that comes the knowledge of taking care of the game once it's harvested, because
Yes.
you get a fair amount of gaminess from how you take care of it once it's harvested.
Absolutely.
And I don't know if there's any truth to it. I hope somebody could comment or something and give a better explanation of it.
Mhm.
But I have heard that if you wound it and you track it for a little bit further, the adrenaline that's released into it does change the flavor
That
of
is
the meat.
something that I've found is it tightens up the meat and it gives it more of a kind of taste to it.
Right, and cooling it quicker. I've
Yeah.
noticed, if you do a nice, clean shot, you get it, you don't got shot it or anything like that. You harvest it quickly, you get it out of the woods quickly, you get it to, you get it gutted quicker. That's when the meat tastes the best. Is
Right.
when the quicker you process it, the better it tastes. And I get people dry age it and whatnot.
Yeah. But also, when you dry age, you have that crust that holds bacteria out, and
Right.
it's the bacteria that's giving it a lot of that kind of gross taste to it. Not all of it. Gaminess isn't always a gross taste.
Right.
There are a lot of different things that go into the gaminess, but bacteria is a big thing. So if you have anything on the outside of the meat getting onto the inside of the meat, that's going to make it have that weird off taste.
Yes, very much so. And again, like I said, I hope somebody out there knows a little bit more about that than I do, and they can clarify
I'm sure
it.
someone knows the science, yeah.
So somebody's got to know the science behind it. I know I don't, but a lot of tips and tricks that I've heard involve like a saltwater brine or a milk brine,
Milk,
and that gets rid of the gaminess as well for the people that don't like the gaminess.
Right, yeah.
So I don't mind it. I quite enjoy it, actually. Not like the over gaminess
Yeah.
where you
You're not out there sucking on pine cones and
Right.
stuff that get that.
get that flavor.
Although,
And-
it's kind of like gin, right?
Right? Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. The I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, it had something to do with being in rut and the toughness of the meat too.
So I hadn't noticed really any difference as far as toughness, being either the age of the deer or the time of rut or anything like that. I haven't really noticed it. Most of the toughness that I've noticed has come from a deer that's been wounded and has had that adrenal shot into its system,
Yeah.
or has been absolutely dogged into oblivion. That's where I've found a lot of the toughness coming from. As I've eaten deer that were, close to 10 years old, and I've eaten ones that were maybe, a few, not quite a year, we'll say.
Yeah, not quite a year.
Not quite a year.
Yep.
And really, the tenderness, the gaminess, it was all the same.
Right.
It
Yeah.
was. There's a lot in preparation. If you
Yeah.
get a good butcher, or if you can cut it yourself and you know exactly what you're doing, then you cut it the way that it needs to be cut. Avoid the tough parts, or cut them just right.
Yeah. Yeah. And cooking it adequately as well helps out.
Yeah.
And people tend to lean more towards the well done, especially with wild game.
Oh yeah.
And rightfully so. There's definitely concerns out there. I tend to lean more towards the side of medium with my wild game, just because of that.
So the deal with that is there is, and I'm sure you can find it online, there are charts that tell you when bacteria dies. So I don't know the exact number, but right around 160 degrees for a certain length of time kills just as much bacteria as burning the shit out of your meat. So low and slow.
Right.
You cook it that way, you'll never have a tough piece, and you'll always have it cooked perfect.
Yes. Especially with wild game, I always tend to go the low and slow. And
Plenty of butter.
yes, plenty of butter. It's got to be the real butter too. It
No.
can't be margarine.
No, you don't want to spray olive oil all over it.
Right.
I mean, it's okay. I've had
Yeah.
it. It's okay. But there's nothing that compares to butter.
Right. And we've kind of strayed a little bit off the actual
The
actual
trophy
topic.
thing, yeah.
One thing that I do want to touch on that kind of brings it back to the trophy hunting aspect of it, and it's always the catch-22 is, one person's trophy doesn't necessarily have to be a 10-point
Oh, absolutely.
or
I think-
that old 11-point buck could be
And that's the biggest thing is a lot of times the trophy isn't. The trophy is the story that goes along with that. Like, oh, it was my first deer, or you know, hey, I had to trudge through a blizzard to get this one, or whatever. That's the trophy. And what you have is just, it's going to remind you of it, whether you take the antlers and throw them on a plaque or hang them off the wall or
Right.
whatever you do.
And, you know, somebody always has a trophy, and the trophy is the story that goes with it.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I'll take my my buck from last year. Is it a trophy buck? Absolutely not.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're in the true definition of a trophy buck. Like, it's not a wall hanger by any means, but to me, it's a wall hanger.
Yeah.
And, you know, the you know, going out on my land, getting the first buck off of the new piece of land, spending the time with the family, getting it out, dragging it out, the whole situation was the trophy. The memory is the trophy, and the reason I mounted it is to remind myself of that memory as time goes on.
Yeah, and you figure you're going to get to a point, we all will, where you cannot do that anymore.
Right.
So you're going to be sitting there and you look up at that mountain and you relive all of that.
Yes.
You know, and it doesn't matter, you know, where everyone else is or where you're at. I mean, hell, you could be in an old folks' home and,
Right.
you know, that's one thing you choose to take with you, I guess. I don't know. But, you know, that's why most people have their physical trophies, their mounts.
Right.
And I would never want one that was meaningless other than the size, you know what I mean? So, say you get yourself a 250-pound buck, right? And you go, that's a good one because it's a 250-pound buck. Right. And you go, okay, well, what was special about this one? Well, he weighed 250 pounds.
Right. And in my mind, that's not a trophy. Like, if you wanted to get it for wall decor, I suppose, like, that's a trophy to somebody, but at the same time, like, to me, a trophy's got to have the memory.
Right, yeah.
And if, you know, the buck just ran out into the middle of the road and you dumped it, and it happened to be a 250-pound buck with, you know, a nice rack on it, you know, it's got that good Boone and Crockett score.
Or I've heard of people mounting, and there's nothing against this, it's just not my cup of tea, mounting a road-killed deer.
Right.
You know, because it had a beautiful rack on it.
Right.
You know? And that's great. Appreciate the animal and whatnot. It's not something that I would do per se. I might save the rack because it's a nice rack, but I wouldn't have a shoulder mount done on the deer.
Right.
It just,
you know, given that, one thing that I will ask is, what is your thought on mounting sheds that you found? You know, say you find a symmetrical sheds, and you know, you find both of them. They're out in the woods. You pick them up, and somebody's like, "These are awesome. I want to mount them." What's your thought on that?
So it's one of those, to each their own. I mean, when you put in the time and you walk and you hunt and you find these antler sheds, because they're not easy to find.
No, not at all.
Maybe you might stumble across some, whatever. But finding a match set that's tricky.
Yeah.
That's hard to do. What you choose to do with them is what you choose to do with them. You can mount them. I think that's an adequate trophy. It's a good way to respect the animal, and it's a good way to say, hey, I'm going after this guy next year. What I wouldn't want to see someone do is to put them in a traditional shoulder mount. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And pretend that, oh, look at this deer that I got last year.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I guess as long as you have it as these are antler sheds and you're not lying to yourself about it, then if there's meaning behind it, then it's a trophy.
Yeah.
If it's an empty symbol or an empty just object hanging on your wall, then it's they're just as good being thrown back out for the rodents to chew on.
Right. Yeah. So. Yeah, I think with that, it kind of touched on where we were going with everything. The meat versus trophy, and I don't think either is necessarily a wrong stance on hunting, because, you know, like we've pointed out, if you get a good trophy buck, potentially it has more meat, or some people just need to fill a freezer, and that is okay. And if you want to go out and the first thing you see, you take, that way you can fill a little bit of freezer with meat, then that's completely acceptable as well.
Yeah, and the other thing is, inherently, a deer that you harvested, you know, and put the effort into, it doesn't matter what I say or what anyone says, you know, if you feel that's a trophy, then that's a trophy.
Yeah.
You know, whether it's your, like you said, 11 pointer,
Right.
you know, whatever the case may be, and don't let anyone tell you anything otherwise. If there's meaning behind it, then it's a trophy and it's good.